Sometimes the biggest plot twists in our lives do not happen in grand moments, but in the quietest, most unexpected places. Imagine waking up every day in a beautiful house, only to feel completely invisible to the person sleeping right next to you. That was the hidden reality for a 40-year-old woman who thought her life was set in stone, until a simple hello changed everything she knew about love. Sarah was an elegant, successful executive who seemed to have it all together. She had a great career, drove a nice car, and wore a confident smile every morning. But behind the closed doors of her suburban home, her marriage had become a cold, empty shell. Her husband was distant, prioritizing his own life, leaving her trapped in a suffocating silence where they lived merely as roommates rather than a married couple. The only light in her otherwise dark world was her 7-year-old daughter. This bright, energetic little girl was the sole reason Sarah stayed in a loveless marriage for so long. She convinced herself that a broken home would ruin her child, so she swallowed her pride and buried her own happiness deep inside. She played the part of the perfect mother and the dutiful wife, slowly losing her own identity. Every single day felt like walking through thick mud. She would wake up early, pack lunches, rush through traffic, and dive into a high-pressure job. When she finally came home exhausted, there was no warm embrace waiting for her. Her husband would barely look up from his phone. The crushing loneliness of being ignored by the person who promised to love you forever was slowly breaking her spirit piece by piece. Everything shifted on a chilly Tuesday evening in November. Sarah was working late, the last one left on her floor. As she walked to the lobby, she noticed a new face at the security desk. His name was David. He was not a wealthy executive or a flashy businessman. He was a humble watchman in his late 30s, with gentle eyes and a warm, inviting smile that immediately put her at ease. As she approached the glass doors, the rain was pouring outside in heavy sheets. Sarah sighed, realizing she had forgotten her umbrella. David quietly stepped out from behind his desk, handed her his own plain black umbrella, and simply told her to get home safe. It was such a small, basic gesture of kindness, but to a woman starved of care and attention, it felt like a massive ray of sunshine. From that night on, their daily interactions slowly began to shift. It started with simple morning greetings, then moved to brief conversations about the weather or weekend plans. David had a natural charm and a grounding presence. Whenever Sarah spoke, he actually looked her in the eyes and listened. For the first time in over a decade, she felt truly seen as a human being, not just a wife or an employee. Those brief lobby chats soon became the absolute best part of her exhausting day. She found herself lingering by the desk just a little longer, laughing at his mild jokes and sharing small details about her life. David never pushed boundaries or made her uncomfortable. He just offered a safe, quiet space where she could be herself. The heavy weight on her chest always felt a little lighter when he was around. But as the emotional connection deepened, a heavy blanket of guilt settled over Sarah. She was a married woman, and though her marriage was broken, she felt torn. Late at night, she would stare at the ceiling, wondering if she was doing something terrible by caring so much about another man. Her heart was pulling her toward a humble watchman, while society and obligation told her to stay in her miserable reality. The breaking point finally arrived during a weekend at home. A minor disagreement with her husband exploded into a bitter, devastating argument. In the middle of the yelling, he coldly told her that she was lucky to have the life he provided. In that chilling moment, Sarah realized the painful truth. He did not love her, and things were never going to change. She was sacrificing her soul for a comfortable prison. The following Monday, Sarah walked into her office building looking visibly defeated. Her eyes were red, her shoulders slumped, and the usual confident smile was completely gone. David noticed immediately. He did not ask prying questions or make a scene in the lobby. He simply handed her a hot cup of coffee, looked at her with deep compassion, and told her that whatever she was going through, she did not have to carry it alone. During her lunch break, Sarah walked out to a quiet park bench nearby, and David joined her. The dam finally broke. She poured out years of silent suffering, crying as she explained her loveless marriage and her fears for her daughter. David just sat there, listening intently, offering his calm strength. He did not try to fix her problems, but his steady support made her feel incredibly protected and understood. In return, David opened up about his own life. He had faced his own harsh struggles, rebuilding his life after a difficult past, choosing a simple, honest living over chasing empty success. He spoke with such clarity and genuine kindness. Sarah realized that true wealth wasn't found in big houses or bank accounts, but in the character of a person. She knew then that she was falling deeply in love with him. The fear of destroying her family still haunted her, but a new thought began to take root. Sarah looked at her daughter one evening and realized a terrifying truth. By staying in a toxic marriage, she was teaching her little girl that it is acceptable for a woman to be treated poorly. She wanted her daughter to know what real love looked like, and staying would only perpetuate a cycle of unhappiness. Gathering every ounce of courage she possessed, Sarah finally filed for divorce. The process was chaotic, emotionally draining, and incredibly painful. Her husband was furious, not because he was losing her heart, but because he was losing control. Friends whispered, and family members judged her for leaving financial security. But through all the sleepless nights and legal battles, the thought of living a genuine, honest life kept her moving forward step by step. When the dust finally settled, Sarah decided they needed a completely fresh start. She secured a new job in a different city, far away from the painful memories. It was a terrifying leap into the unknown. When she told David her plans, he did not hesitate for a single second. He simply packed his own bags, telling her that his home was wherever she was. They were finally going to take this journey together. Life in the new city was drastically different. They moved into a much smaller apartment, and the luxurious lifestyle Sarah once knew was entirely gone. Money was tight, and they had to budget carefully. Yet, sitting on a cheap sofa in a cramped living room, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace that no mansion could ever provide. The air felt lighter, and their home was finally filled with genuine laughter and warmth. The biggest challenge was blending their new family. David was incredibly patient with Sarah's daughter. He never tried to replace her real father or force an unnatural bond. Instead, he simply showed up. He helped her with math homework, taught her how to ride a bike, and always listened to her stories. Over time, the little girl naturally began to trust him, recognizing the pure, unwavering kindness that her mother had seen.
One quiet Sunday evening, Sarah stood in the kitchen watching the two of them in the living room. David was sitting on the floor, losing badly at a board game, while her daughter laughed uncontrollably. Tears of pure joy welled up in Sarah's eyes. She had given up an illusion of perfection, faced her deepest fears, and walked away from security. In return, she found a love so beautiful and real, it felt like a dream. Life is far too short to spend it feeling invisible next to someone who does not value your heart. True love is not about grand titles, big bank accounts, or maintaining a flawless image for society. It is about finding someone who hands you an umbrella in the rain and makes you feel seen. Sometimes you have to bravely walk away from what is familiar to finally discover what is real and true.